Good evening. You are listening to Thank Me for My Cervix, a podcast where we talk about all things mental health with a focus in the veteran and the military community. I'm your host, Marine Corps veteran, Shauna Marie, and I am so nervous for this episode. I always kind of hate talking about my issues, but it's kind of a way for me to get it off my chest and get my story out there. So in this episode, it's going to be a solo episode, just me, and I'm going to be talking about my DUI. I'm going to start from when I got it and kind of go through the whole legal, like what happened with the legal process and what I'm still dealing with now. So it's just going to be a whole thing. I'm going to go through the whole thing. If you have any questions or if you're on here, please let me know if you can hear me okay. And yeah, I'll keep paying attention to the comments, but this is just basically going to be story time. So let's go ahead and get started on it. So I got this DUI 3 years ago. It was St. Patrick's Day, exactly 3 years ago. It was on a Saturday night. It was the 17th. And I was in downtown Wilmington. At the time, I lived in Sneads Ferries with my ex, Chubbies, which we've talked about before. But we lived in Sneads Ferry and went out to Wilmington for St. Patrick's Day. It was a good time. I did drink. And we were out with friends having a good time. As we were leaving Wilmington, my ex at the time got jumped or got attacked by these guys, and they stole his a really expensive gold chain. And this is important because we ended up having to speak to officers in downtown Wilmington to make a report for his missing chain. And my ex was very, very, very much obliterated. He was very intoxicated. But I was not. I had stopped drinking. I knew that I wanted to drive us home. And I knew that it was best for me to stop drinking. But I was the one who spoke to those cops in downtown Wilmington about the necklace. I made the report and gave them all the information. And then those cops in Wilmington watched me drive away. So fast forward to I'm halfway home, and my tire just goes flat, and I have to pull over to change it. So when I'm driving home, this officer is behind me, who was out of jurisdiction. He was like a North Topsail cop, and we were not quite to North Topsail. So this cop was on his way to work because it was like 3 a.m. or whatever time it would have been for us leaving. And he just pulled up behind us and was took our information. My ex got out and was trying to change the tire. During this time, the grass was super wet. I had pulled over too far, and we could not get it hard enough on the ground to change a tire. So that part was already miserable. So this out of jurisdiction cop obviously called Pender County cops. So it was the county cops that came, and there was 3 or 4 cop cars that showed up. And I remember there being 5 officers. So while my ex was trying to change this tire in the grass, of course, we are pissed. We're angry. I remember I was so irritated that these cops. So while my ex was trying to change his tire, the cops were standing kind of behind him, making jokes, because when I say he was intoxicated. We knew that. I mean, it was St. Patrick's Day. That's why I was driving. But so these Pender County cops that showed up never saw me driving, but they did take my driver's license, got my information, watched my ex try to change the tire. Then they started going through my trunk, and I was like, what? So I started recording because I thought that was weird. I started also recording because I didn't like how they were taunting my ex. So I was like, okay, instead of doing that, why wouldn't you help us change a tire or whatever? But anyway, so then I started going through my trunk, and I was like, don't do that. I kind of closed it. And he was like, oh, we were just trying to get your license plate. And I was like, the license plate's on the hood, on the part that closes. So whatever. Then time goes by, and my ex still cannot change the tire. And he's getting more and more angry as the time goes on. But then one cop makes a sly remark, and I didn't hear the remark, but I'm still recording. And you can't really hear it on the audio. And then my ex turns to him with the lug iron in his hand and was like, you could fucking help. He says that. And probably meaner than that tone. And they were like, okay, get on the ground. Cause they were like, drop the tire rod, get on the ground. Made him get on his face. He did it instantly, dropped the weapon, which was he was changing the tire with, got on his face, and I was like, why are you guys arresting him? Like, what is going on? They're like, you get on your ground and get on the ground too, get on your face. And mind you, before this had happened, like, we were just frustrated about changing the tire. No one had, like, they asked if I had drank. I honestly told them, like, yes, I had a few drinks earlier in the evening. I'm driving us home. I'm aware that my boyfriend's intoxicated. But they didn't sobriety test me. I didn't blow in the breathalyzer. There was no indication that they were arresting me for a DUI. So I got on my face and let them put the handcuffs on me because that's what they told me to do. And then they stood me up and tried to put me in the back of the cop car. And that is when I'll admit my panic, I freaked. I freaked out. I was like, why are you arresting me? And the officer was like, we're not arresting you, we're detaining you. And I was already in handcuffs. So I was like, okay, I'm detained. Why do I need to get in the back of the cop car? He was just like, get in the back of the cop car. And this went on for a little bit. And there's 4 cops and they're slowly inching me towards the cop car. And I'm recognizing this. And of course, I'm telling you, I was not okay with this. So I don't want you guys to think that I think that I was like a little sweet princess. I was like, I'm not getting in the back of that cop car until somebody tells me what you're arresting me for. Like, what I wanted one person to say, we're under the suspicion that you are driving under the influence. Never told me, not once, not said. So I was like, I'm not getting in the back of that cop car. I was like determined. This cop that was 3 times my size, and I say that like 3 times my size without his full body suit on. Because they wear like the vest and stuff. So this is a big dude. And I'm just like, I'm not getting in that cop car until you tell me. So at this point, I am like in the door of the car. The car door is open. I'm like, just tell me why. And I will. I'll sit. Just tell me why. And he's like, you're getting in that fucking cop car. And I'm like, no, I'm not. So he grabs his baton and starts beating my arms. And then so I sit down in the cop car, like, okay, stop, like, beating. So that I didn't even get a chance to say anything. Then he starts, my feet are still on the outside of the cop car. And he ends up beating my shins. I have permanent scar tissue damage. As those of you who know me know that I am a lifter and I constantly still hit that spot. It's miserable. Anyway, sorry, that was a little side note. To get him, because he would not stop hitting me, I couldn't even get my feet inside the cop car for him to stop hitting me. So since I was sitting down, used my feet to kick him over. And we were on the side of the road, so he like tumbled back. And then I just got in the cop car. So then I'm freaking out. He took my phone. Turned off because it was videoing. While we were in the cop car, called my mom and was like, I have your delinquent daughter, your piece of, talking to my mom. My mom was like, what is going on? And I'm losing my mind. I am. I'm like freaking out. I'm crying. I'm like, I had brand new shoes. They were destroyed by blood. I was covered in blood. My arm was bleeding. I was in shorts. So he was hitting my bare shin. Like, I was not wearing pants. He was hitting my bare shin and my bare arm. I have pictures. I was literally, blood was everywhere. I get to the jail and not once was it ever asked if I needed medical attention or anything. I was gushing blood. So, obviously everybody's jail stay sucked. I was in the jail for 24 hours till someone could get $3,000 bond because they charged me for the DUI, assault on an officer, and resisting arrest. So, which, technically, did I do all of that? Yeah. So that when I got to the jail, I blew into the whatever, and my blood alcohol level was 0.12, so I was 0.04 over the legal limit. But I was fine. I was so coherent, and they never did any testing on the side of the road. So I didn't even know that that's what they were doing, but I had recorded and you could hear my voice. So they tried to say that my speech was slurred, and that was the only reason why. Listen to me talk. I have a speech impediment. I do. I have a lisp, and I am mostly deaf in my left ear, and it causes me to be loud and obnoxious, and it also kind of makes me sound like I run my words together. If you've listened to my podcast long enough, you've already picked up on that. I have enunciation problems. And in that video, I sound like how I sound every day that I recorded. So my mom sends the bail money. My ex bails me out of jail. We had to get my car. My car was towed because they still never changed the tire. And then I ended up getting a lawyer that I had to pay $3,000 for. And gosh, what a scam this system is, honestly. Because of this incident, I still tremble when I get pulled over. I don't do well. And ever since that incident too, I don't drink. You can ask any of my friends. I very rarely drink, and if I have a sip of alcohol, I won't drive. Well, now I can't drive because of my driver's license. Oh yeah, we'll get to this. Okay, so the court system process. You can't text, if you text me and I have to check it, why don't you just comment it if you're watching? Oh, okay. Okay, I'm resetting. So, the legal system process. I remember, no matter what you're told, for those of you who have DWI, you probably already know this, and I will just kind of go through it anyway. Your first court date, you can expect it to be pushed, basically, almost every time, because they need to, thank you, okay. They need to gather the information. So I was told right off the bat, expect it to be, I forget what the word is. If you know what the word is, please comment it for me. But that's going to be postponed, but that's not the word. So then another time goes by, court dates, you get them 2 to 3 months out in advance. So several court dates go by for me, long story short. And this is because there was 2 reasons. 1, the officer kept not showing up. And 2, they were waiting for my blood to come back, but they never took my blood. So, they kept pushing my court case, and that pushed off getting my driver's license back. It also, so when you get a DUI, you have to pay to get an assessment done. And that assessment will tell you what kind of class you need to go through to get your driver's license back. So literally the first month, not even the first couple days after my DUI, I had done the assessment and was going through the process of figuring out which classes I need to go to. But the issue was, if they don't convict me of the DUI, which was my ultimate goal, because I was literally hit by this cop. No one saw me driving. There was no evidence of anything. Anyway, that's not even the point. But so I was like, hold on, I lost my train of thought. So, oh yeah, the assessment. So the class, I couldn't pick a class or do the class until after I was convicted for the DUI, but I was trying not to be convicted of the DUI. So it was this ongoing process. Finally, the court date, the last day that they're allowed to say that they can't push my date anymore. That was the very last day that they could do that, was when they would just they charged me with a DUI and said they were doing me a favor for not charging me for assault on an officer because they had no proof of it otherwise. So when my lawyer tried to get some of the footage from them, because all of the cop cars had cameras, they all had mics on. So when my lawyer tried to get all of that, they said that they didn't have anything from that night. And then also the officer that was right behind me when they pulled me over, or when my tire popped, his camera also just wasn't working. So no cops had any footage whatsoever. The only footage was what I had, and they said that was not admissible during that time. So they just would refuse to hear my court case at all. And I had to wait until a decision was made on my criminal case to pursue a lawyer that could help me. And then by the time all of that was done, the lawyer said too much time has passed. I've reached out to so many different lawyers, and it is very hard to try to find a lawyer that is willing to try to go on a case like that, because ultimately I was charged with the DUI because I blew a .12, and even though they dropped the resisting arrest and the assault on the officer charges, there is no footage of them beating me with the baton. There is no evidence that I had damage from it. But I did take pictures, and I did go to a doctor afterwards. I was diagnosed, I have PTSD from it. That's why if I get pulled over now, I literally tremble. And what's funny is, those of you who know me, I used to be a cop. Now if I get pulled over, so I got pulled over actually. So I got convicted of the DUI and was so graciously not charged with resisting arrest and assault on an officer, actually a year ago. And when that happened, my driver's license was suspended, but I got a provisional driver's license, and it was to go to work or do all that stuff. So I had just been driving the last year, and we get back to that assessment, and because so much time had passed, my assessment was no longer good, and no one had reached out to me about the class, and that wasn't something that was rediscussed with me, so I never redid the assessment. And my driver's license, my yearly provisional driver's license, was actually up 2 days ago, and the day before it was up, an officer pulled me over because he was like, your driver's license is suspended, and I was like, I have a provisional. And then he was like, oh, well, it expires tomorrow. And I was like, oh, sick. And that's when I went to the DMV and found out all this assessment stuff. So that's where I'm at. And it just feels like, so you have to pay just for them to decide what class you go to. You pay for the assessment, which is $100. And then the lowest class, which is what I was assessed for last time, so I'd have to redo the assessment and see what they'd say. Hopefully it was the same, is $160. So you're just paying all this money. Oh, and then, because you were unaware. Well, yeah, and the due dates kept changing. Honestly, I feel like the more, oh, okay, this is a good thing to talk about, too. This is good. I just remembered something. So, Pender County is where I got the DUI. And it was their courthouse is about an hour from where my house was in Sneads Ferry. But I ended up moving to Jacksonville, and now I live in Moorhead. And I had to drive from Moorhead a couple of times, too. Because it took 3 years to get convicted of the DUI. Well, 2 years to convicted of the DUI. So I would have to drive basically once a month to Pender County on a provisional license to show up to court for them to postpone it. And every single time I had to drive there, I would just tremble because of all the cops at the courthouse, and so half of them would be there. Sometimes I'd see that cop. How are you still a cop? I get that drinking and driving is bad. That's why I don't drink anymore. And drinking and driving, I will never encourage it. It's not me trying to say that you had to do, oh yeah, okay, I'll talk about that too. I had to do community service, which honestly was kind of fun. But anyway, what I will say though with the DUI is I understand, that's what happened. But the getting hit by a baton and the mockery that was made of me by this officer and made of my ex, and just how we were treated, and even not even just that night, but through the court system, it's so common that people have DUIs, and I don't like that as not good. But it's also like people then get the stigma, and I'm sure people who have DUIs feel that too. It's like, oh, a DUI, and it's like, well, there's so many different levels of that, and some people can have DUIs for backing in boats. Someone messaged me with that, and it's just like, it's hard not to let that define you. Like, it's hard to not let my DUI define me right now, because especially because I don't have my driver's license, when I've been driving and I don't drink, and my life was completely ruined, not just because of money, and not just because of my reputation, not because of my driver's license, not because of the PTSD that I get now driving at night or driving around cops. Like, it's all of that combines, and then feeling like, what did I do? What did I do to deserve that? What did I do to deserve to be hit with a baton while I was in handcuffs by a grown man that is 3 times my size? Like, what could ever be so bad for them to do that? Surely not getting a flat tire. And then being treated like I'm the criminal? And not being able to do anything about it. Because, yeah, you blew a .12. It doesn't matter if you felt clear-minded or whatever. Nothing happened to anybody. No one, like, I feel like it was just like something bad that was meant to happen that just completely changed my life. And the reason why I really felt like I needed to come and talk about it, and there's 3 big reasons. The biggest one is kind of selfish, but I feel like it's kind of a part of me that people don't know, because it's like, oh, Shauna doesn't drink, she's a sweet angel, or whatever. I'm not a sweet angel, you guys know that. But I do feel like it's such a stigma. And then for what had happened, for me to be like, this is what happened, and I wish something could happen about it. The biggest thing is, I hope that officer isn't still treating people like that. That's what breaks my heart. Each time I saw him, I was like, God, I hope that you're like getting better at least. Because how are you going to see me in the courtroom and know that that's what you did, and you're here trying to convict me of something? I don't know. So that's where we're at. I am, first thing tomorrow morning, actually, I am getting the assessment redone, and then doing the class. The community service was really fun, actually. And they actually offered me a job at the end of it. All I did was I worked in Jacksonville. They have like a military cemetery, kind of like Arlington. I don't remember what it's called, actually. Do you remember what it was called? And I just hung out with these guys, and we like laid grass, and I had a weed whacker, and they wouldn't let me ride the riding lawnmower, though. I guess you have to have a driver's license for that. I'm just kidding. Oh, crap. All right. So, yeah, that's my story. I don't know. I still feel kind of anxious. I want you guys to, like, ask questions, or anyone have, like, a story to share about it, too, because I feel like I still feel anxious. I'm trying to make sure that I covered everything that I wanted to cover. Honestly, the way that I said it just now is how it felt in my head all the time. Like, I'd be like telling something, and then I'd think of something else that I'd want to say. It is tough. It is tough. Honestly, I think that I could have just handled the DUI part. If they had just told me that they were arresting me for the DUI, and I had just gotten into the cop car and didn't get beat with the baton several times, I do feel like my life would have been easier. I do understand DUIs are hard for everybody, and I'm sorry. Oh, did you look that up? Mont Point Marine Memorial, is that it? No, it was across the street from that, I think. Anyway, sorry. DUIs, like, it sucks when you get them. You're not alone though, like, for that. But if you feel like you were wronged and you can't get the help, that breaks my heart. Actually, when I had first shared that I was going to talk about this on Thank Me for My Cervix, so many people messaged me their DUI stories, and I actually love that people feel comfortable enough that they listen to me and they're like, you know what, this girl, I can tell her my story. And the amount of people that have reached out that feel like they were wronged and can't get any type of justification for it just because it's basically law enforcement gets the last say. It breaks my heart. And you know what makes me even more upset? Why is my voice like that? Stop it. I got into law enforcement to be that change. To like, I wanted just to make a difference. I didn't want to be that officer that just screwed people over, and that officer that like went out of their way to make sure that they were fucking people over. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, you know, oh man, I don't think I should say this, but there was a time or two where, you know, there's people that we had DUI, like that we could have arrested for DUIs, and we were just like, go the fuck home. Go home. Because I didn't feel like nothing happened. Now, you run into someone's mailbox or you run into a tree, like, bro, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to, you know, whatever. I actually got out of law enforcement for that reason, because I felt like every day it was just like, who's the next person that I can find to fuck over? And then when it came time, and that wasn't my mindset. I should phrase that differently. That's how it felt. Like, it felt that's all I could do was screw people over. That's how I should phrase that. And then, like, when I wanted to help, when there was a situation, you know what? I'm going to tell it. I'm going to fucking tell the stories. I'm telling you these stories because why am I scared to tell them? Like, this is what I've witnessed. I don't know why I feel this way. So I'm going to tell you. One time I went to this house and there was the sweetest little redhead boy. The sweetest little redhead boy who was just home alone. I think the neighbors had called and they heard screaming or crying or something. So we went over there. This house, the floorboards were like coming. It was disgusting. The floorboards were coming up. It was like a double wide, and it was just too put together. So there was like, it was the weirdest, grossest thing. And this kid was like down in between his like little area. There was like a blanket. And I was like, what is going on? And long story short, I was refusing to leave there until we had like CPS involved. And everything we did, like the mom came home and was like, oh, we just went to the store. It was like blatantly obvious that there was nothing I could have done to get CPS involved or get that child out. I mean, honestly, it had crossed my mind, and I can say this now because I'm not in law enforcement anymore, so it's fine. It had crossed my mind to like sneak back there and take him. So yeah, maybe I shouldn't say things like that. But anyway, he was like covered in mud, and it was like a horror movie. And I was like, this is it. This is my story. I am changing this kid's life. This is why I'm in law enforcement. And nothing could happen. Oh, and then my last straw in law enforcement was in a standoff. I remember this was the most craziest thing ever, honestly, that I did in law enforcement. And I had, long story short, because I'm not going to tell the whole story because it's not even worth telling. We were in the standoff. There was no movement in the house. So they were like, well, we should call it. There's no one there. And then little old Shauna, sees him move the curtain a little bit and then move it back. And I'm like, I just saw him move the curtain. I like told them, like, look, they moved the curtain. And then like no one else saw it. And they were like, basically discrediting me. And I was like, you know what? This ain't for me. Because guess what? He was in there. Yeah, you want to know why I knew that? Because I saw him. So that's just like one of the tipping points. I hated law enforcement, and now with my DUI, I hate it even more. But what would be great is we just need to stop drinking and driving. And I know that's preached, and everyone knows that, but see, people still do it. I am a strong advocate for finding other things other than alcohol, and that's not what this is about. This is about telling my story, and but if there is something that you're looking to do, just reach out to people, because there's so many different options. If you ever have any questions as far as something like that goes, my DMs are always open. Like, if you guys ever want me to actually respond, like, there's so many like deep questions you could ask me that would actually get a response instead of like, hey. Okay, so that's all I wanted to talk about. I feel better now. Did I say anything differently this last segment? Because I feel better now. I don't know what I added, but whatever I added made me feel like I said what I needed to say. Maybe I just needed to get a little bit off about my chest about law enforcement too. Why I quit. Because I feel like a lot of people in this area, or in especially in North Carolina, like know me from law enforcement, which is cool. It's great. But it's like, well, why did you just randomly quit? And it's like, well, here's why. And then now on top of it, so I went from being like this deputy in law enforcement, this like little badass, to having a DUI and getting hit by an officer with a baton. So yeah, that's my story. If you're listening to this and I ramble, that's how it goes on in my head. And I feel so much better. So thank you. Thank you for being here and listening to me. And if you're listening to the replay, like, if you have stories you want to share and you want to get off your chest, this is such a good place to do it, because I want everyone to know that I don't judge for anything, because I just like, God, life is fucking hard. And the last thing people need is judgment from somebody else. Especially, like, what do they mean to you? If you're afraid of doing something because of judgment, don't. And I'm telling that mostly to myself, because I almost would have never done this if I didn't feel like I needed to. So do it. Don't be afraid. Thank you guys for being here. And I'm just really grateful to have this platform with all of my friends and people here who support me. And I'm just really grateful. So thank you for tuning in. We do have a big week coming next week. This week was kind of a week off because of St. Patrick's Day. It's always a funky time frame for me, and also the kids don't have school tomorrow, and for some reason next week's just appointment central. So, but we do have some people coming up, so thank you guys so much. Thank you. Bye.